Hey, so Mark here from Rock and Load. And this evening, I am joined by bass player extraordinaire, Mr. Marco Mendoza, all the way from San Diego, California. Mark was just about to embark on a UK tour. Make sure you check out Marco's website and socials for information on the tour and, of course, tickets. Marco, how are you, sir?
I'm really good, Mark. Good to be here, man. Good morning. Well, good morning for us. Good evening.
It's such a you here. You have the day ahead of you. I'm sure it's beautiful weather over there, is it?
It's gorgeous. It's really, yeah. I actually had my shades at a certain part of the day. The sun starts coming in, and we have a lot of windows, which I love.
Yeah.
I have the shades ready, but we've been getting some beautiful weather. It gets cold in the evenings, and we had some rain last night and the night before, but beautiful. California, California weather.
Are you?
But just to correct you, I'm in LA. I'm in Orange County, actually, not
Oh,
San
right.
Diego.
Okay. Sorry, you were born in San Diego. Is that right? Is that where you're from?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yeah. So you have upgraded, is that right? Is that what you've done? You've moved into the big city, into the big smoke?
Back in the day, I actually lived in San Diego for a short time. I went to high school there, but I grew up in Mexico, just south of the border, Tijuana.
Okay, yeah.
Which is a 30-minute drive from San Diego. And but I knew after things started happening in the music, my career musically, that I needed to come this way. And there was a lot more work here, the kind of work that I was looking for. And so San Diego became my base for a minute. And obviously, the transition from San Diego, where the big boys are in LA, and you kind of need to move to be where the action is,
Yeah, absolutely.
And I was very lucky. And LA is a 2-hour drive. Well, now it's longer. The traffic is insane.
Yeah, I've heard that.
But so I started spending a lot of time up here, made friends, connections, and then it was obvious I needed to move up here. So, and I'm glad I did,
Yeah. And so, Marco, tell me a little bit about your journey. What piqued your interest in music in the first place, and what took you into that sort of life?
Growing up in Mexico is, at any given moment, there's music going on, all kinds of genres, and being the type of city that it is, like a melting pot of cultures and all that. The Afro-Cuban thing is very prominent. The Colombian music, the cumbias, even jazz. There's some great players down there, and but the thing that interests me as a kid, like all of us, is rock and roll, And so when I started playing music, that's what it was. My brother and I started a garage band. Oh, I have to go back. My grandmother, when my parents separated, my grandmother came from Mexico City to live with us, to take care of the kids, us. And she was a piano teacher. So she was very influential and very inspirational in that she taught me how to appreciate music in a deeper way, and how to pay attention and how to listen to music. And so she helped me develop my ears and my interest in music, generally speaking. And then my father was a clarinet player. He was into the big band thing. So there was always music in the house, one form or another. And so it was obvious that was going to pique my interest. But my dad, when he saw that he kind of wanted to keep us out of trouble, out of harm's way, because that city is one of those cities where you can very easily go the wrong way.
Yeah.
And so he surrounded us with instruments and amps and the whole thing, and built a little rehearsal studio next to the house. And so that was it. So my brother and I got lit up. We got the Abbey Road album, and that was it. Boom, world changed. And we started doing little gigs, and so on and so forth. That's pretty much what it was. I realized it was very clear that was going to be a direction in my life, that it was going to be incorporated one way or another.
Yeah.
It wasn't like a clear decision where you make when you say, I want to be this. It just happens, because the more you learn, the more you play, the more you dig it, and so on and so forth. So it's one of those things where, and I'm glad I did, man. I think I was 16. And this is also another long story, but I got married very young against my dad's advice, and then I had to support a family. All of a sudden, we had kids, and I hadn't finished high school, so I had to provide.
Yeah.
What do I know what to do? I can play instruments and make a few bucks. And that kind of pushed me in that direction. And the more I started doing it, the more I got calls, and the more I got calls, the more interest I got. I started learning more and more, and that's what it was. But yeah, you're surrounded by music. Inevitably, it's going to affect you, influence you one way or the other. Whether you become a huge fan, or a player, or somewhere in the business, you know.
And
So
was bass always the main instrument that was of interest to you?
No. I started goofing around with piano, but early, I realized the piano, especially the way my grandmother was teaching, she was a classical pianist, that it was very disciplined, very structured, in the box, if you will.
Yeah.
And it was just too much work. I was a pretty scattered kind of kid with all the stuff, so I couldn't concentrate enough and put the work in. It just didn't spark my interest.
Yeah.
What sparked my interest was, listening to the Abbey Road. I keep talking about that because that's what happened. That was the only album we had. And then after that, so playing air guitar and air bass, and my brother would play air drums and the whole thing. We started to realize, wow, this is a lot of fun. Let's get some instruments and start doing that. So yeah, one of those things, man, where I'm glad I did, and then I get married. And so it's time to support you having kids. And it ended up being my livelihood and my career, by default.
Yeah.
But I'm glad I wouldn't change it for the world now, obviously.
Yeah. And like, speaking of your career, like, we're coming up, you're just over like 3 decades as a professional musician, and like, it's a who's list of people that you've worked with over the years. Would you have ever imagined when you started this journey that your career would have been as big and as fruitful as it has been?
Not at all. Nobody's got that crystal ball. I think you just jump in full on, and you start practicing and getting better at your skill. And I've seen it happen with a lot of people. It's the natural process. You start floating to the top, and then you get noticed. Same thing in sports. You develop skills that are noticeable in the industry, and then your name starts getting pulled around. But yeah, thank you. That's a great compliment. I still, to be honest, Mark, I'm like, I have to settle down every so often, because I'm still a fan, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of people I ended up working with, I'm a fan of, and then all of a sudden I find myself on stage going, wow, what happened? A blink of the eye, and then boom, I'm here. So it's one of those things. It's nobody knows, the industry, where you're going to land, who you're going to end up working. But I will say this: it's mind blowing, the calls that I'm still getting to this day.
Yeah.
And I like to keep it at, you said 30 years. Thank you. Makes me feel younger, but it's more like 40, and I keep it at 40. But yeah, I've been around. And like anything else, you go out there, you do a good job, you leave your number, and then it's a word of mouth, kind of thing.
Yeah, I think it's true of many things in life. You have to just get your head down, do good work, and it will gravitate towards you.
Yeah, you kind of. I learned, this is a thing I learned in sobriety. You kind of do the footwork, do the work, and stay away from the results, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because expectations can, set you up for disappointment, and I still do. I'm like everybody else. You're all, you do gigs and you're thinking, wow, wouldn't it be cool to be here for a while? And then things change.
Yeah.
So on and so forth. So right now I'm in the process of developing and trying to get my music out there as much as I can. And it's a lot of work, but I love it. And I'm passionate about it. I believe in what I'm doing. We get some great write-ups. I try to surround myself with the best players possible. I always try to keep it consistent, but that's just not the way it is, unfortunately. But I'm lucky where people call me and say, hey, man, if you need, and these are some pretty big names and with big profiles and a lot of credit. So you try to make it work. Yeah. There's a business side to the whole thing that kind of gets in the way.
Sadly, yeah. It's the killer of the creative, isn't it?
That's the side that I really, if I let myself go with that, it's depressing sometimes, because your hands are tied and you can only go so far commitment wise, financially and emotionally, spiritually, the whole thing. And then again, stay out of the results.
Yeah, yeah.
Things will fall where they may, and they're going to go in a certain direction, whether you want it to or not. And so that's how I live with especially with my solo stuff. I try to just do the best, put the best effort forward. And I do focus on trying to have the audience and the fans kind of walk away with something memorable. So I try to involve the fans as much as I can. That's a long answer, right?
It's an honest one, though. It's an honest one.
Yeah, I love to talk, as you can tell. I'm like, after my coffee.
Yeah, yeah. And for example, when you look back at your own career, Marco, would you say there was any particular pivotal moments that shaped it? You can look back on and say, yeah, that took me in a certain direction, or that was a standout moment that was important.
Yeah. Pivotal is the thing that stuck. Yeah, man, there's quite a few. I got recruited by Martin Maya, who was playing with a big band in Mexico, rock en español, rock in Spanish, which back in those days was in its pioneer stages. They were breaking all the rules and they got in trouble. It's a long story. That's a cool story though. But I got recruited by players like that were like 5-10 years ahead of me. They had real careers, they had albums, they had names, they had profiles. And that was a pivotal moment when I went and played with them. We traveled to Mexico City, and we got to be part of the fabric of the movement of rock in Spanish, which is very cool. Yeah. And we were a little bit on the prog side, and it was a blast. Shortly after I got married, I had kids, and now it became not only pleasure, but I had to provide. So, I came to the States to work, and that was another pivotal moment. And I met, again, a large group of musicians that were already established and names and working. And we did a lot of top 40 stuff to survive and provide for our families. So that was pivotal. But when I came to LA, the first time, let's just say I had fallen into every dark hole that you can imagine. Alcohol, drug addiction was very, very much a big part of who I was.
Yeah.
I came to LA and it was overwhelming. The studios, the sessions that I was doing, it was too much. I was unprepared emotionally, spiritually, psychologically. It was like, I'm recording with whom and it was like too much. So I depended on my drug addiction and alcohol addiction to kind of help me through. It was my crutch.
Yeah.
I mean, I was doing a lot of sessions. I was working with Joe Porter, who was a producer in Motown, writing songs and demoing songs for some big artists, huge artists. And so I found myself in the hot seat. But obviously I had something to offer, otherwise I wouldn't be there. But when you're not developed and emotionally ready to deal things like that, you kind of get jerked around. So, I mean, to give you an example, my name started getting thrown around, and I auditioned for Lionel Richie and this is when Lionel Richie was massive. He still is, right? Yeah. One of my favorite artists of all time. And then Cher. So those are the people, those are the circles I was in, playing with the best of the best.
Yeah.
And so let's just say it kind of got to a place where it was out of control. I lost everything, my sanity, bankrupt emotionally, spiritually, psychologically. I was done. I gave up because drugs took over.
Yeah.
In '87, I got sober by the grace of God, man, gave me an opportunity. And I had a lot of help. That's another story and another pivotal moment. But along with that, when I got sober at a year and a half of sobriety, I wasn't even playing music. I started going to this meeting where Bill Ward from Black Sabbath was going to, the drummer, and some big names will show up at this meeting. Anonymity is part of it, but it's part of the story, so I talk about it. But so long story short, after a few meetings, we started connecting, and he approached me. He says, Marco, I want to surround myself with sobriety, with sober people. I hear you play bass. I'm doing my first solo album. Would love to have you come and check it out. Will you? I said, yes. So I bought a bass at a local pawn shop again. That was very cheap. Came to the studio and I ended up recording 5 or 6 tracks. I can't remember exactly. I have to check. But that was another pivotal moment because now I was sober. I was much together, much more centered. emotionally, spiritually, psychologically speaking. And then I was lit up again. The seed was planted again. And I realized what a privilege it is to play music, you know. And so playing on that album kind of got me on the radar.
Yeah.
And then my name starts getting thrown around. And, you know, I ended up working with Edgar Winter, Al Jarreau, quite a few sessions that I did. And and then I moved. I got a place in the Valley, and I was there in the middle of the whole thing. And I think that was also a pivotal moment, because to be there, I can't tell you how many times I would get calls, last minute calls.
Yeah, yeah.
We got a tour happening, our guy bailed, or we're doing a session, could you be here tomorrow? La, 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 la. So, for example, Delores, her husband, Don, they were at the record plant, and they were working with Mick Fleetwood. And he says, and they lived in Toronto and in Ireland, in Limerick,
Yeah.
as a matter of fact. And they were in town working, and I knew Don from previous projects. And he called. He says, Marco, our bass player's not showing up. He's having a baby. He's having issues. Can you come? We're here. The studio is on, and we need a bass player. So situations like that would come in, and they would happen, you know, spur of the moment. And so I showed up, and it opened another door. I connected with Delores. I ended up working on 2 of her albums and started working on the 3rd. And sadly, you know, we know what happened.
Yeah, yeah.
Rest in peace. What a beautiful person, a human being, an artist. Amazing. I had a great time. Very pivotal, because it opened the door into another genre, kind of put me in the map, and I got a lot of work because of that. So that's how it is, you know.
Yeah.
The music business is like that. Most recently, I did a project called Journey Through Time. A very pivotal moment, and that was when Neal Schon, Greg Raleigh, and Dean, and we were addressing the first 3 albums, mostly the first 2, 3, 4 albums that Journey did. And so that opened the door with Greg Raleigh, and so on and so forth. I ended up getting the call from Neal to cover for Randy Jackson for Journey, and that was amazing, man. What an experience. So that's how it is, you know. It's like you kind of start getting a reputation in the business, and now it's good. It's a good reputation. Where before, when I was struggling with alcohol and drugs, it was bad. I had a bad rep. People stopped calling. So I show up on time. I prepare. I try to do the best job I can, and then stay out of the results. And then the rest happens, or it doesn't. You know, and slanja.
Yeah, exactly. And tell me, Marco, then, you, as a bass player, obviously you have dipped your toes in so many genres and worked with so many artists. So what tools did you work on as a young bass player coming through that was preparing you for that sort of challenge?
What tunes? What music?
Or tools? Like what? How did you like musically prepare yourself to be so versatile?
Again, you know, I wish I had the answer. It's just, again, growing up in Mexico, you get exposed, not realizing that you're learning stuff without even being aware of it. I came to LA, and being Latino, I hooked up with the Latin community, and I was doing salsa gigs, you know, and Brazilian gigs, and I learned how to appreciate the different genres, you know. I did a lot of bebop stuff, jazz stuff with the real book in front, and that was quite a learning experience. And so another thing, you just don't consciously say, okay, I'm going to learn this. You do it because you have to, because you get called. If I get a call, you know, I would get calls for different genres. If I get a call for a reggae gig, I'm going to try and listen to as much reggae and understand what the bass function is within that style of music. Same thing with salsa, you know. And on and on and on. Reggae, cumbias, bebop, rock and roll. And I think, you know, and to this day, I suggest, and I really not insist, but I tell the young players, listen to as much music as you can, because when the time comes for you to put your own voice out, you'll have all these things to pick and choose from, you know? Yeah. And so I think that's what happened. I think on-the-job training is what happened to me when I look back in reality.
Yeah.
Because one week I'd be doing a bebop thing, you know, walking bass all over the place and soloing a little bit. And then I'd be doing a rock and roll gig the next week, and then a reggae gig, and then a pop gig, you know. So when I put a trio together, we incorporated all these things. And it became an alchemy, very eclectic, man. And for some reason, when we were doing it, it got a lot of attention. And we called it Straight Jacket. We had to change the name because somebody else grabbed the name, registered it. And we went with El Trio, which is, you know, trio in Spanish, El Trio. And we got a bit of a reputation of being those cats, man. We would take arrangements. We would get songs that were classic and just mess with them.
Yeah, yeah.
And now I listen to a lot of what's going on, and that's happening. It's very cool, man. Very, very, very cool.
Yeah.
So to answer, the short answer would be, I think on the job training, I was kind of pushed into it. And that's, you know, and you got to work. You got to get the job done. So you learn by being put in that position to do the best you can. And to this day, I still get calls for different stuff, but it's leaning more on the rock for me. There was a turning point where that became my main thing, and it's great. It's all good.
Yeah. Well, the best bands at the moment do tend to be the older, more experienced bands. You know, like really, when we look at rock today, and the biggest bands, the biggest pool are the bands who've been around for decades and have been doing it. And, you know, so you'll definitely be in demand with an audience and a genre like that.
Yeah, the classical, right? Classical rock, melodic rock, and there's so many labels. I'm like, so what do you think of this? I'm like, what is that? Please explain to me what that label means, you know?
Yeah.
Like the old song goes, it's still rock and roll, you know? But yeah, man, it's one of those things. The other thing that I've noticed, and it's happened, it's more prominent in these past 10 years, that's why the tribute bands are working, man, so much.
Yeah.
They're representing the classics. That people, I think the audiences, for the most part, they want to hear the songs. That's what it is. It's about the songs, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
Not who's playing it, how you're delivering it, but the songs. It's very cool what's happening.
And what about your solo work then, Marco? So you have 3 solo albums. How did you approach those as opposed to the stuff when you're working with other artists?
I got approached by Frontiers, actually, years ago. I was working with Whitesnake, and we had a meeting in London after a show, and they suggested you need to do a solo thing. And that's when I sent them what I was doing with my El Trio project, which is very eclectic, jazz, funk, a la go-go, with a little bit of hip hop, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Nondescript, to be honest, but it was getting noticed, and I thought that they would jump on it. But, you know, being the label that they are, they're a melodic rock thing. They were very cool. Serafino, he said, you know, we're going to pass on it, but we want you to do your solo thing, and it should be melodic rock. That's your genre. You need to sing, write some songs. And I had a few ideas floating around. I always do. And then I think that went on for a few years after the meeting, until one day I got a call from Serafino, who is now the big cat Frontiers. He says, I got Richie Kotzen. He wants to work with you. And Richie and I had spoken quite a few years when he first came to LA about doing something together. I got Richie Kotzen, call him, you guys call, get it together, organize it. And then we had like a 4, 5, 6 month period where he was traveling and I was traveling, working with everybody. And we finally put 15 days together. I remember I was living here and I had to drive up to the Valley, and we went up and did the album. And so that was Live for Tomorrow. That's what happened. We released the album. It kind of got me on the map. Unfortunately, my biggest mistake was not touring behind that album.
Yeah.
I didn't support it. It came out, it came and went. And then a few years later, I had the opportunity to kind of book some dates, but it was too late. But what it did do is to kind of open the door and establish me as a solo artist. Shortly after, I got approached by Mascot and my friend Fabrizio Grossi producing, and we did Casa Mendoza. And they, the idea was to do what I was doing with my trio, to do it, make it very eclectic and all over the place. And we did it. Again, it came out. I was busy with, I want to say, Thin Lizzy, Nugent, or Whitesnake, or all of them at the time. And I didn't support it, right? I know I'm dropping names, but that's what it was. And Delores, I was working with Delores a lot. I was traveling all over the planet. And that's when the Neal Schon project, Soul Circus, started as well. So I was juggling a lot of stuff that was very important to me, very pivotal, like you say, very true. And so my solo thing was on the back burner, And I think back in 16 or even earlier, 14, 15, 16, I got invited to do some shows with my solo thing. So we put some things together, went out, and I had so much fun. But it was like a side project for me,
Yeah.
But what happened is it kind of gets you on the radar, and now you start getting offers. When can you come? When can you go? And it builds. It's that snowball effect. And 19, I got to say, was my last album. Marco Mendoza came out February of 18, and I was really busy with the Dead Daisies. That album came out in April, so my album comes out. It gets talked about, reviews, all great reviews, but then my focus had to be the Daisies, which is also an unbelievable project. Great, awesome time. So when the Daisies went on a little bit on a hiatus in 19, that's when I went out and did most of my dates. And 19 kind of set up 20, to be honest. We were kind of building it to a nice level, and then 20 happened. And so we're back trying to pick up the pieces and go back out again and all that. But that's how it is. It's not like you say, I'm going to do that and I'm going to go full on. It just happens, and with me anyway, But I will say this, when I have time available, and when you're playing with the bigger projects, there's always downtime, a lot of downtime. So I'm one to not to stay still. I'm looking for stuff to do musically because I love it so much and I miss it when I'm not doing it. So now I have time available and I'm doing that right now. But there's a few other projects floating around, Yeah. So that's what happened, Mark. I ended up here because life took me here, brought me here. It's one of those things. Having a blast, man.
And have you always enjoyed the transient nature of your musical journey, rather than, say, being with one band for so many years? You really have floated around with different projects.
I do. It's challenging, and it's always like, okay, if this hat's on, I got to put this hat on.
Yeah.
And I got to do some work. Like right now, I'm working on. We have a new album that's getting ready to come out in August. Hopefully, if things go well and don't change again. And that's another interview, such a long one and terrible what's going on. But we're going to release, we're committed to the single that's coming out April 13th for the new album. So right now I'm trying to pick and choose the songs so we're going to get together in Glasgow and we do our first show in Liverpool. So we'll see what happens as far as what material, what songs we're going to do in a set list. And there's a lot of covers that would just be so, it would be, there's so much to talk about and sing about right now, man. It's like, so I could.
A 4-hour set.
So we actually, my guys are always saying, bro, your shows are too long. I get in the zone and I enjoy it so much. And as long as I see the audience and the fans and my friends enjoying it, I just keep going and going. There's so much to play and so much to sing about, but a lot of songs that would be apropos to what's going on the planet right now, So
and
we'll
how was your 2020 experience? And obviously when everything did shut down, how was that for you, considering that you're such a busy musician?
It was, the downside is, I was really looking forward. It's kind of like you cultivate something, you plant seeds, you work, and then the tree's coming out and it's giving you the fruit. And then 20 came and it cut the tree off. Boom. Down to the seed again. it was rough. It was really rough. We went through a lot of changes. Our music industry got hit the hardest,
Yeah.
that, unfortunately. The upside is I got to hang time with my kids. I have 2 kids that live at home. My wife, my family time was maybe too much for them. They're like, can you leave? Can you go on tour?
Yeah.
I'm sure they have a lot of stuff to deal with. I'm a little different, let's just say. but there was a lot of good stuff. Did some writing, and I did some recording and all that. But it was definitely a time to take a different perspective on what was going on with you as a human being, and how you influence your surroundings, and try to stay as positive and uplifted and optimistic and proactive as possible when there's nothing going on,
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a little bit of work, and a lot of my colleagues kind of took a beating really hard. We lost a lot of people, that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's sad. I had 2 surgeries that I won't get into, but one of them was my knee. I had my knee replaced, so I have a titanium knee now. And that's
Bionic
because
man.
bionic, yeah. Because my wife said, 17 and 18 were very painful, and even 19, very painful years because my knee was really done.
Yeah.
And I kept telling myself, I'm going to be okay. I'm going to do physical therapy. When you get to this point in your life, there's no repairing other than replacing it.
Yeah.
So I kept putting it off. And I said, all right, there's nothing going on. Let's just do it. So that's good, because now I feel better. I'm not going through a lot of pain. I still go through some uncomfortable times, but so I have my wheels again, and I can stand up and play, and it's a blast. There's a lot of good things that happened. I reconnected with my kids. I have older kids, and but yeah, man, it was insane. It was time to take inventory and revalue the things that were important and not so important in your life.
Yeah, it was such a crazy time, though. I think we almost forget what happened during that period. Not even just COVID, but you had the election in America. You had the whole Black Lives Matter thing happening at once.
Wow.
It was such an explosive time. It's you almost forget that so much happened.
Yes, it was a very volatile time, and I think human nature, we tend to put it in the back burner, and then you just push it away because you don't want. It was terrible.
Yeah.
I mean, I live in a great area here in suburbia, Orange County, and a few miles away there was riots and people getting shot and all that.
Yeah.
That's another story that I don't want to get into, being that you guys are in the UK and you have your things, and it's great, and I respect that, and I just got chills again.
Yeah.
There's measures that you have to take to protect your family.
Yeah.
And it goes against everything that you believe. But what do you do, Mark? What do you do when you push against the wall, and you know that at any given moment somebody could come in your pad and just, come on. So a lot of things like that happened, and thank God we were okay. And my family ended up getting a COVID this year.
Yeah.
I was lucky. I got my, and I know there's another conversation. I got my vaccines, and I had a lot of reservations. There's a lot of gray area, but I knew that if I didn't get the vax, I wasn't able to do the work that I did.
Yeah.
Because every time I get calls, it's like, are you vaccinated?
Yeah.
We will consider you, we want you, but are you vaccinated? If you're not, I'm sorry, we're going to pass. And then also to be able to travel anywhere. So I have to do it against some reservations, and I'm okay.
Yeah, I know. It's strange and weird and wonderful times, to say the least.
So you go with the flow, you try to make the best of it, and hopefully it won't come back and bite me in the butt, hopefully. And I also got the booster, and I think I'm going to stop there. That's enough.
Yeah.
But it's required. It's required. There's no way around it. And I'm not going to, I love what I do so much, and I'm willing to go to any length.
Yeah, absolutely.
Get it. That's the bottom line. And I understand and respect people's opinions out there that it's not that important. I have a lot of friends in the medical business that they're inside that decided, no, I'm not going to do it. They lost their jobs. They moved out of California, and there you go. It's a trip. It's happening.
Yeah. But at least now we are on the other side of it. Although for some strange reason, COVID is still creating problems for likes of yourselves, musicians touring, especially stateside musicians trying to get to Europe, because Europe is in a state of flux in different areas. So it's still problematic, you know?
Yeah, I'm trying not to think about it because I'm going everywhere.
Yeah.
And we'll deal with it as it comes and the best we can. And if we have to cancel shows, unfortunately, hopefully we won't. We will. We'll work around it. Yeah. But I will say this. My daughter got sick first. She was in New York, came home. And then my wife got sick and my son, and they got rid of it. They had their vaccines. It came and it was like a big flu, like a big cold, and it was gone. So thank God nothing heavier happened. But
exactly. Yeah. And fingers crossed that's where we are now, so that, you know, we can deal with it if we do get it, and within a few days or a week or so we can just move on, you know. Yes.
And that's why we need the whole picture. Is we need music more than ever right now. I don't know how you feel about it, but the healing potential is there, the therapeutic potential is there, just to be able to go somewhere and escape the realities of what's going on for 2-3 hours out of your time. It's like, right?
Yeah, so absolutely. We got to, crazy heavy 2 years, and then we're in Europe in war as well now. So it's like even crazier than before. So you couldn't write the script.
No.
Yeah, for sure.
So we're here flying the flag of, come join us. There's a little bit of fun here. Let's hang out for a few hours, escape the realities of what's going on, and maybe, you get a little stronger to deal with another reality.
Absolutely. Whatever. And so the tour literally is just a couple of weeks away now. You must be really looking forward to get back into Europe.
I am, to Europe and the UK. I certainly UK. April 2nd, we start with the UK bass guitar show in Liverpool, and then we go to Newcastle and Edinburgh and so on and so forth. We end up in London, and then we go down to Romania.
Oh yeah. So the challenges are there.
Challenges are there. I'm going to try and get involved as much as I can to get back and to help. We're talking. Hopefully it'll happen, to give back. Absolutely.
Very good. Very good.
Yes, sir.
Marco, I'm going to leave it there. I'll let you get back to I know you've got another interview lined up at 6:30 or so you'll get back and you'll take a 5-minute breather before the next one.
Yeah, I'm going to go straight in because I'm a little late, but that's okay.
Sorry.
Thank you for your, no. We could talk for hours.
Yeah.
Thank
absolutely.
you so much, brother.
My pleasure.
And stay tuned. Let's do another one soon when the album comes out. I'll talk to Wes, organize it.
Absolutely, man. Okay, look after yourself. Thanks again,
yes,
Marco
sir.
Mendoza.
Thank you, brother. I want to come to Ireland.
Yeah, soon. We'll see you soon.
All
Take care of yourself.
Peace.
Okay. See you.
Bye-bye. Bye.